Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special council meeting on September 16th, 2024. Individuals interested in participating in this evening's meeting were eligible to register online using the delegation registration form at www.kitchener.ca/delegation or via email at delegation@kitchener.ca. Any written comments received prior to the commencement of this evening's meeting have been circulated to members of council and will form part of the public record. The meeting live stream and archived videos are available at www.kitchener.ca/watchnow. Before we begin this evening's meeting, I'd like to acknowledge that this evening we're gathering on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We recognize our responsibility to serve as stewards for the land and honor the original caretakers who came before us. Our community is enriched by the enduring knowledge and deep-rooted traditions of the diverse First Nations, Métis, and Inuit in Kitchener today. Before I begin the meeting, I'd just like to share with our viewing audience that this evening we're starting with a new audiovisual system in the council chamber. So we are working through some details with it on the first time, so please bear with us if we have any glitches along the way. I will also note for any speakers that we do now have a 5-minute timer that is present. You'll see that timer on your screen in front of you, and the timer will allow you, or will give you a 30-second warning with a little sort of tinking bell that will let you know that you have 30 seconds left to finish your comments. With that, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Councillor Davey. Are we in the... There we go. Okay. Great. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? No, not in this committee. So with that, and there aren't any delegations, so I'll go into Finance and Corporate Services and call on Councillor Davey at this point. Go ahead, Councillor Davey.
Thank you. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Ioannidis that the two items from Finance and Corporate Services Committee be adopted.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? If there isn't, all those in favor? All those opposed? And that is carried. We'll now move on to staff reports, and we have an item pertaining to the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund and the Kitchener Indoor Recreation Complex Gymnasium. And I'd invite Mr. Siddiqui, our Manager of Manager of Customer Experience, who'll provide a presentation. Mr. Siddiqui. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, members of council. We're here today to present an exciting proposal to build a quad gym at the existing RBJ Schlegel Park. And I'd like to start with some key details of the proposal. Just the remote is, yeah. Yeah, thank you. So what we're proposing is a 33,800 square foot gym that would include 4 multi-purpose courts to support fast-growing sports such as pickleball, basketball, volleyball, and badminton. The quad gym would have 40-foot clear ceilings and competition-level flooring to support provincial and national tournaments. It would also incorporate an elevated mezzanine gallery for optimal viewing experience. This gym would be physically connected to the current Kitchener Indoor Recreational Complex build, so it would be able to take advantage of shared spaces such as change rooms, concessions, reception, and even shared infrastructure such as parking. The quad gym is also planned to be a future tournament destination, which will lead to direct impacts and revenue to the city, as well as other economic impacts. The reason we're bringing this to you today is we believe that there is a current opportunity to build this gymnasium along with the Kirk build. Building the gym now means it will cost less and open sooner. So the cost of building the gym now is $29.9 million. And we believe the timeline is that we could open this gym in the summer of 2026, along with the current Kirk build. Just waiting until after the current Kirk build is complete, so that's less than 2 years, would up the price, the cost of this project to $38 million, a 30% increase. It will also mean that given how projects start and getting a new team on board, that we're likely looking at 5+ years after 2026 when this is built. Costs would also then continue to escalate 3 to 5% year on year after 2026. I just want to show you some key visuals from our design concept to give you a better understanding of what we're proposing. Here on your screen, you'll see the main entrance with the gym attached, so that's in the red square. Here's from further south in the parking, so you can see the entirety of the gym proposal. Here's what it would look like from the interior main lobbies. As you walk in, you'd have the aquatic center to the left, the future proposed gym to the right, and as you can see, the field house straight down the hall. So you'd see all those spaces as you walk in. So it would work really well as an addition to the current Kirk build. This is the layout. So as you see, the gray spot in here is the only thing that we're talking about as a future build for this project. The other spots are all part of the current build. So the blue aquatic center to the top of your screen, the purple multipurpose areas to the right, and the green field houses to the bottom right of your screen. Those are all part of the current build. The gray quad gymnasium with the 4 full courts is what we're proposing as the future build. So those are 4 full courts stacked side to side, which can also be used as 2 show courts end to end for larger events. We also want to talk about the proposed budget and funding plan that staff have prepared. The cost is, again, $29.9 million if we're building it with the current Kirk build. And we're proposing 3 potential funding sources. So $10 million for the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, which is a provincial fund. $10 million from a federal fund application, the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Grant, and $10 million city contribution financed through debt. The proposal from staff is that if we receive either the provincial or the federal funding, the project proceeds and the city fund the remaining costs from debt up to a total of $20 million in debt. And if we do not receive the provincial and the federal funding, the gym project do not proceed. And so just to summarize those key next steps and the timeline, we believe meeting these following milestones would allow for the gym to be built at the same time as the current ongoing Kirk build. First is today, we ask City Council to direct staff to submit funding applications for both the provincial and federal applications. Once those are applied, we are targeting a decision on those grants by the end of 2024. Having that decision by the end of this year would allow us to begin construction on this gym by April of 2025, and that would then mean that this would be complete and ready for public in the summer of 2026. We're now open to questions from members of council.
Okay, thank you very much. We have several questions. Councillor Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for this. It's just a question. If this is included in what we're building now, is this also part of the integrated project delivery?
So As a project, it would be a separate project, but we would run it by the same principles and we run it with the same team. So having an integrated project delivery allows us to be flexible and add this on without having to go through a new tender process. So that's one of the elements which we feel would make this project, really attractive for funding opportunities, is that this can open in summer 2026, really faster than most other projects that would be applying for this fund.
So then everything could open at the exact same time. There's no, we get part one built, but then we'd have to go back and have a construction mess and extra cost and safety, maybe some safety concerns. So
Correct. So if we can follow those key timelines, we do believe that this can all be built and delivered at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ioannidis?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Urbanovic, and thanks, Osama, for your report. My question is with regards to the provincial and federal funding. How much is that a factor in presenting this option today?
So the availability of that funding is why we brought this today. This gym was not proposed as part of the current build because we couldn't afford it, but having these funds available, these grants have recently been announced, the provincial funding was recently announced, and if we get that, that's the proposal, that we would then be able to afford the gym.
Okay. With the recent political culture that's been going on in the province and in the federal level, how confident are we that if we do get these, that they will be given to us?
I think that's a question probably for Mr. May. Mr. May?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I've learned in my time never to guess on which federal or provincial grants we're going to get. What I can tell you is we looked very closely at the criteria for both of these grants, and we feel that this proposal is a very good fit.
Okay. I guess that raises a question for me too. How secure is the current funding that we got for this facility?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the funding that council previously approved was a combination of federal, provincial, and municipal funding, and that has all been fully secured.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Singh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to ask on the same line of question as Councillor Ioannidis, so I'll go back to Mr. May. You did answer, and I agree with you. It's absolutely unfair for staff to be able to answer if you're going to get this funding or not. I have complete confidence in our staff to put forward a very appropriate application that will showcase, I guess, the environmental benefits of this site and why we should be eligible. That being said, I think Councillor Ioannidis was trying to touch on the uncertainty of a government change, and provided that we get the funding and there's a change of government, could there be a scenario where that funding approved could be taken away from us? And qualifying the fact that we are proceeding in a very expeditious timelines of construction, the fact that we're constructing immediately right now, does that give us greater security on this funding?
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly moving as quickly as we are, I mean, we'll be one of the first municipalities, I believe, to apply, is helpful. I think it's fair to say that any future government can make any decision they want. The faster that we could get an announcement and make a public announcement and then look at the terms of the agreement, I think the better it will be to avoid the risk of any funding being pulled.
Okay, I definitely see the added benefits of this application, of us looking at this approach, because it was you who wasn't initially ready to propose the gymnasium part of the build because we didn't have the funding outlined. So addressing the application, how much of a better position are we, because we've gone through the, I'm trying to remember the acronym IPD, or the integrated development process, and the fact that we have the timeline that we can be able to build and get this site up and running. How much does it get us through the goal gate faster?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, we've looked at the grant criteria, and we believe that by using the IPD model, that sets us up very well for potential success. And then, as you've alluded, you're bang on. The fact that we could potentially open a facility in 2026, I think will be a very rare thing across the country.
Excellent, thank you. One last question. maybe too early, but again, I like the numbers. I like whenever there's efficiencies or generation of money. The fact that we did look at being able to bring, tournaments, or there is a revenue generation capacity of a larger site like this, what would be the loss of revenue if we were to delay and build down the road, one side from the fact that it'll cost us more, but what kind of opportunities would we be missing out on if you don't build it now altogether as an integrated site?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we haven't looked at like the overall, like a revenue impact. We haven't mapped out the revenues for this, for the gymnasium. But we do know that having this gymnasium, along with, our existing park facilities, the existing Kirk build, all that space together, like if we had that, that would really set this site apart, in Ontario as a premier destination, both for our community, fulfilling our community need, and a premier destination for sports, events, and tournaments. So not having that gym means, as we've currently proposed, we're building a great facility, but we just will miss that one piece that would really set us apart in the province.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Singh.
Yeah, what you said, that really sells it, but you already had me at government funding, so.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. So we're talking at minimum 9 or 10 million versus 20 million. What would this do to the property taxes? I mean, we're about to enter the budget period. Do you have any idea of what that would mean, or what would be coming forward in that regard?
Mr. Lautenbach.
So through the chair, this project would be fully funded from development charges, and that's still the plan. So it's development charge revenue that will repay the debt costs, if there are costs associated with that, for this gymnasium. So there's no impact on property taxes as a result of a decision to proceed with this project. What the grant funding does do, it does help with cash flow for building this facility, and so that's why these two grant opportunities coming at this time is a great opportunity for us to move forward with something that before we were a little bit more concerned in terms of a large cost. This would certainly help with mitigating that.
Right, okay, that's great. I also, just a question about the 5-year period. Why would it take 5 years if we hold off until the other facility is done, like an additional 5 years versus?
So that's not, through the chair, so that's not a set in stone, but just how we know that projects proceed in the city. That if we have an existing building, then to consider adding on where you'd have to put up a hoarding, you'd have to shut down parts of the parking, you'd have to hire a new, design team, you'd have to go through permitting process. So all of that, just to consider that, bring it to council, go through it, just given what we know with how other projects have gone, we think that it'd be at least 5 years before we would be able to open this if we waited to complete the existing build first.
Right, okay. And one last question, just regarding the grants, can you get more than 10 million, or is that the max?
Mr. May.
So through you, Mr. Chair, for the provincial grant, that is the max that you can apply for. For the federal, I believe you can go a bit higher than that. But we've done some analysis and believe that, the more you ask, the less likely are you to get it. So we think that's the right number.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Stretch.
Thank you, Mayor, and Mr. Siddiqui or Sadiq?
Siddiqui.
Sadiq. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I was trying to figure out, it looks like 4 full-size basketball courts, then 8 if you use the cross courts, volleyball courts, and then how many pickleball courts and badminton courts is that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so 4 full basketball courts, so it's 1 volleyball court per court there as well. But each basketball court, you could fit 4 or 5, depending on our layout, a minimum 4 or up to 5 pickleball or badminton courts on each court. So we're looking at, if you used, for example, as an event space and you just had a pickleball tournament going on, 16 to 20 pickleball courts at one time in this facility.
Right. Sorry, I'm I got stuck on volleyball. But can't you run another court on each basketball court?
The ideal space, if you want to have runoff and all, you still want to keep it to one. Like you can maybe run 2 junior volleyball courts on
Right.
1 basketball court. But if you're doing competition level, because of runoff and because of the height space,
Okay.
you'd still keep it to just 1 volleyball court per full court.
Right, but for league play or something,
Yeah,
that could work, okay. And it will be equipped to do that,
Yeah.
yeah?
So
That
we'd
makes
have the lines to support that. We'd have, the equipment to support that. The court is divisible into 4, but yes, sir, it's going to be designed to be multipurpose space,
Great.
be as flexible as possible.
Great. Okay, and then my next question is around office and admin space. When we were at AMO and we met with the Minister of Sport, Mr. Lunston, he talked about, the importance of integrating physiotherapy or something into a space to be successful in our funding ask. And so I'm just wondering, has that been integrated or thought of in this next phase?
So we haven't thought of more, new support space in this build, but we're confident that if we added this to the current build, there is enough space, support space, there's multipurpose rooms, there's staff space in the current build, that adding this, any events would use that support space. So we wouldn't need really more than, maybe some storage rooms in this build and the mezzanine viewing area, as I said.
Great. And
The
then
fact
what,
that it's using the other build allows us to be a lot more flexible.
to integrate, same with
Yes.
change rooms, you were saying?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
And then the other question was around audio-visual equipment and, scorekeeping and would that be something that's also included?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, like even for the current build, we're currently in that process. We're doing the detailed design of audio-visual. So any technology that we're putting in there would be supported here, and that would be part of the budget. Scoreboards, potentially having streaming ability where parents could view even from the comfort of their home. So all that would be part of the budget for this, for the project build.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stretch. Councillor O'Dooney.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, can you hear me? I do not have a question. I just, when the appropriate time, would like to move this. And I had a few comments as well, so I can come back for that if you want.
Yeah, I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Okay.
Second time around, Councillor Ioannidis.
Thank you, Mayor Urbanovic. Just a little bit more of a clarification question with regards to the upper level government funding. When is that application process set to begin?
Mr. Lautenbach?
So through the chair, the provincial grant application process is open right now, and the funding for Stream 2, which is what we're recommending to apply for this facility, closes when all the funding is allocated. So there's no deadline, but applying as quickly as you can with a project that meets the eligibility criteria and what they're looking for is beneficial in terms of this process. The federal grant has a deadline of October 16th, and it's also open to apply at this point.
Okay. If you can just indulge me, Mayor Urbanovic, I'm just going to give a bit of comments if no one else is.
There is still someone in the queue.
Okay. Go.
Councillor Davey.
Thank you. Just on that, so we're applying for 2 separate grants for $10 million each. Historically, has there ever been situations where we would get, they would award a grant amount less than what we applied for? And just follow-up question then to that, if they do, I'm assuming basically what staff recommendation is going to be is that at least if we get $10 million total between the 2 grants, the recommendation would be to proceed.
Mr. Lautenbach?
So through the chair, in our experience, typically they would fund what the ask is in terms of applications. There's obviously the potential that it could be revised, but based on the program parameters is typically what you put forward in terms of your ask. In terms of, sorry, I missed your second part of the question.
No, I think you
earlier today about getting neither groups of funding.
So I think it would make, I mean, personally, I'll just say, I think it would make sense that it comes back so that council ultimately is the one making the final decision. So Councillor O'Dooney, if you're the one making the motion, you may want to consider putting that in the motion. Because I'm in the chair and I can't do it.
Let's add that to
Okay,
the
so
motion.
Councillor O'Dooney, the floor is yours.
Well, first I want to say thank you to Sam. It's really good to see him back. I was very excited to see him. Almost jumped for joy, but I had to stay demure. I guess that's the new word now. So it was really good to see him. I had a chance to go through the VR experience. So that was, I see some councilors looking. Had a chance to go through the VR experience today, and that was great. It was great just to walk through the entire building and see all the different amenities. And this is going to be the talk of the town. This is going to be amazing. And I think if we can push for this, it would absolutely be phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to this. Do we need to put up anything on the board, on the screen, or I just
No, you just move it with that addition that Mr. May indicated based on my question.
Okay, yeah, so would like to move it in addition to if at any point we don't get any of the funding or all the funding, it'll be great to come back to council so we can get a report and figure out what the next direction would be.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ioannidis.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Verbanovic, and I too want to thank staff and Samo. It is great to have you back, and I really appreciate the approach that staff has gone with this. The reality is, if you had come with us to begin with to have this in the first place, I would have agreed to it anyways. Just for the need that we have in this community and the growth that's happening in our community, the demand is our supply for the demand is way behind. So I'm more than happy to support this, and I just want the other upper levels of government to do not take away the funding, but I see that with the timelines, it seems like we're going to be well ahead of the process before they can even make any kind of decision. So that gives me some extra confidence and good feelings that we're going to this will be just again, as other members of council have said in the past, that this will be quite the jewel in our community, and look forward to when this facility does open.
Thank you, Councillor Ioannidis. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to Councillor O'Dooney, regardless if you jumped up or not, you're always very demure, mindful, and cutesy. So just thought I'd go on the record and outline that. I just do want to say when you added the amendment, I was saying it come back regardless if you get all the funding. I would say we shouldn't necessarily want to re-debate. If we get the funding as outlined in the report, it's for information, obviously, but not for a decision. But if we don't get any of the funding, then of course that we have another kick at the can and debate amongst this horseshoe and seeing if it's the right choice to proceed or not. So just wanted to correct on that one. Just a comment, I think obviously the business case makes sense. The need in the community is phenomenal for basketball, for volleyball, especially for pickleball. I saw all the faces light up when we said we could have upwards to 20 courts. That is the fastest growing sport in our community with the aging population. That's what we want to make more room for, as well as badminton, and a lot of more diverse ethnic backgrounds cater to that type of sport. And I've heard complaints that we don't have enough space, where looking at Rim Park and what Waterloo has, that they can really leverage on that additional space available. But our city is growing at a very fast pace, and additional delay we can't afford to now build these facilities. And that's actually an important aspect of growth and development, and we have to be considerate when we are apprehensive about development because we don't feel like we're ready yet, and we slow the process, we delay that development, we're giving away opportunities to better our community, because it's the development that's going to be able to build this, and that's what we should be able to champion and also go back to the community and highlight the successes of growth. So glad to see this and very happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you. I'm was very happy to support the staff recommendation that came forward. I'm going to be honest in that, and again, I think it was fantastic that staff prepared, had something ready ahead of time to be able to leverage the grants that are before us. At the same time, I have to say that my threshold is getting some value from these grants in proceeding and advancing this project. So I do not particularly like the idea of it coming back to us if we do not get any of this money. In my mind, it's ripping the Band-Aid off slowly. So I'm actually, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask that we have, and I'm prepared to lose this one, 10-1, that's fine. But I'm going to ask that we vote on that specific part of it separately. And just my rationale is that, infrastructure is the biggest challenge that municipalities have right now going forward funding them. And one of the solutions is to not build as much infrastructure until you can afford it. And I am not convinced that we can afford going full tilt on our own at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's a hard act to follow, Councillor Davey, but I'm going to do it in a very positive way. You know, we have just come off watching the Olympics, and every time I watch the Olympics, I hear from people, where's Canada? Why didn't we get as many medals? Why aren't, where are we on the world stage? You can't win if you can't play. And we need more places to play. I'm really excited about us going for this in our community. As Councillor Singh had asked earlier, what is the revenue piece that we won't get if we don't have this in place? I think that the opportunity for us to really make a mark in southwestern Ontario as a place where you can go and play sports and have tournaments and things will be lost. And we're going to. I don't know. I don't know if the feds and province are listening, but we're going to get that money because I feel very confident that we've got a really good business case here. So I'm enthused and excited about this. And go Canada, go!
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Before I make my comments, I was remiss in not asking for a seconder. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson as Chair of Community Services. I will be supporting the recommendation that's in front of us, and I want to thank Mr. Siddiqui and Mr. May and everyone else who has been part of putting this together. I think we are in a unique situation right now in terms of availing ourselves of the opportunities that are available from both the provincial and federal governments. But I also think that, the business case speaks about the merits of this approach in and of itself. Obviously, getting funding support from our other orders of government is a big part of it. And I, too, share Councillor Johnson's enthusiasm and confidence that we will put forward a very strong and compelling case that people will want to invest in this. And I do think it does have, significant positive benefits, not just for our community and the residents who are living here, but also in terms of tourism potential and so on. And if you think about actually this facility combined with some of the other facilities in our neighboring municipalities, if you want to talk about a province-wide or Canada-wide, tournament or sporting event, all in one community based on having all the facilities that come together when we partner on these kinds of national events sometimes, it could be very, very successful and have significant impact. So I'm very excited about it. And I look forward to advocating with our provincial and federal colleagues in the weeks and months ahead to hopefully get this approved and over the finish line before the end of the year. So with that, Councillor Davey has asked that we deal with that one segment separately, and that's the segment that it comes back if we don't have the funding as it's outlined. So I'll take that vote first. Those in favor? Sorry, this is the No, so the question is that it come back to council, so that council is the one making the final decision. Okay? So if you don't want it to come back, if you do want it to come back, then vote in the affirmative now. If you don't want it to come back, then vote against it. Okay? Right. So if you want it to come back, vote yes now. Okay? So those in favor? Sorry, I'm not turning on and off. That is carried. And now we'll deal with the original or the rest of the motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? And that's carried unanimously. Okay. So thank you. Oh, no, not yet. There is no mayoral business. Someone to move 3 readings of the bylaws, moved by Councillor Michaud, seconded by Councillor Chapman. All those in favor? Those opposed? That is carried, and we will adjourn. Thank you very much.